The Dale Show. Yeah, like I was telling you, I tried like researching this topic, but it just made me so angry.
It got a little too mumbo jumbo-y for
Oh
you.
man, like here, let me read it. Okay, hi
Yeah,
everybody. This is the Dale Show episode, I want to say 30.
I have no idea.
Yeah,
I haven't been
30.
on for a hot minute, so
Yeah,
it's
dude, it's been I just looked. It's been like 4 months since we recorded.
seriously.
Yeah, dude.
Why does it?
Like what?
There was that time I didn't see you for like 15 years too.
Yeah, there's that.
So,
That felt like, dude, it like I was like, oh, it's been like probably and when we recorded that one,
yeah,
it had been 10 weeks since we recorded.
right, because that was right around birth time.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, it hasn't been that long. It's probably another 10 weeks. And I was scrolling back and I was like, what is it? Did it get deleted off the YouTube page? And then I was like,
Yeah,
holy fuck, it's been 4 months. But I
that
did
seems
two. Yeah, sorry.
that seems improbable. That's
Mhm.
just so weird. So like, yeah, we're talking about time right now, and it doesn't even like that doesn't
Yeah,
make any
dude.
sense.
COVID ruined my perception of time.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I don't know if it's because I'm old or if it just fucking maybe we all died and time is doesn't exist anymore.
Maybe we all died, and it's just the timeline
Yeah.
is different now, and it's just it's
Yeah.
a weird different timeline. I
We're
have
all
seen you in person a couple of times,
bumped into you
so
at the mall.
yeah,
Yeah, so I'm actually going to give everybody whiplash because over the last month I recorded 2 episodes on hockey
yeah.
and I was just like giving my predictions for what was going to happen this year, like who's going to be better, who's going to be worse. Go check it out. So and now we're back to like weird esoteric stuff. So sorry if you got listened to those episodes about hockey and we're like, oh, I want to hear more sports because this
You're
is
here
just
for the yeah
a regular Dale show. No
a
sports.
regular Dale show, a non-sports Dale show. It could be a little sports Dale show if you
Yeah,
want.
I could talk about sports. I don't know much, but I think I used my whole breadth of knowledge of hockey just to put out those 2 episodes.
Nice. Yeah, I haven't watched a hockey game in like a full hockey game in easily 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, that's why I did it by myself because it's like, oh, I should ask Jeff to do this. I was like, oh, but he doesn't know any of the players, and I'll just be. But
Because
I should have.
you've
Yeah.
seen my fantasy hockey team, and you're like, he has no idea who any of these people are.
I'm not doing much better, buddy.
Yeah,
My
I
hockey
know.
team is
Oh
suffering.
man. Yeah, it's pretty the only thing I saw
Mhm.
recently in the news about hockey was the player, the former Penguin who was playing in Sheffield, who in
Yeah.
Europe, who got his neck cut.
Yikes!
And
Did you see the
I
video?
saw the video, and
Whew.
it didn't look like it was on purpose, but it
No.
not like on purpose to try to kill the guy, but it was
Yeah.
definitely on purpose to like he was lifting his leg on purpose.
Well, my theory was this is just my going theory. It was like if you watch the video, he was trying to hit someone else,
Yeah.
and then he like started going over, and he had one leg under him, and then his leg was sticking back, and he kind of like kicked out. But my theory is the leg that was still down on the ground was kind of like because you know how when you're on skates, if your
I do
foot's
know how
stuck
to on
and
skates.
turning, like I feel like his body might have been turning and his leg
Yeah.
wasn't or something. And so to
Your
like
blade can catch the ice and
yeah,
turn you in a
so I
different direction.
feel like he kicked his back leg trying to hop his front like blade out of the ice so that he didn't break his ankle or something.
Oh yeah, that could
And
be.
then he hit the guy behind him. And I almost feel like he didn't even know that guy was there because when he landed, you see him look back and he's like panicked. He's like, oh my God, I just hit a guy. Like, I don't
Yeah,
think it was like, hey, there's a guy. I'm going to try to take him out while I'm going down.
it's tough, man. I don't know what to make of that because that's like,
Yeah,
yeah,
it is
that's a
fucking
tough
like
that's a tough one.
brutal.
So apparently there's a police investigation into it as well, right? So it's like
Yeah,
not to
well,
start the podcast off somber, but like
mm,
that's it's pretty
it's pretty dark.
pretty dark stuff, right? And like, do you
Mm-hmm.
remember you're just probably old enough to remember the Clint Malarchuk when that
Yeah, I
happened,
remember that. I was just
right?
watching
Yeah.
oh, they had him on Spittin' Chicklets
Yeah.
and he
Oh,
was
did they?
he
About
was talking
this?
about the whole no, this was like before,
Oh,
but he
about
was
yeah.
talking about because he was a goalie and someone fell and cut his neck. And that actually came up again. And the way he got saved was there was a Vietnam vet was one of
Yeah.
the
The
med
Zamboni
techs
driver.
and he
Oh, he
like,
was a Zamboni driver. The
oh, was
Zamboni
it?
driver was a Vietnam vet, and that's the guy that ended up saving him
Yeah,
because
he like
he dealt with that in the war.
pinched his vein in his
Yeah,
neck
inside his neck. Yeah,
and then like knelt with his knee on his chest to slow his heartbeat so he would like lose less blood.
yeah,
That was brutal. But yeah, he was on Spittin' Chicklets and he was talking about how that basically ruined his life because he was like, after that, he came back like really quick and hadn't
yeah.
really dealt with it. So he had all this like
Mental problems with it.
PTSD and shit.
Yeah,
And he just like was on the decline and was only in the NHL for like 2 seasons after that because he
yeah.
just couldn't keep it together.
Well, I mean, that's a traumatic experience, and then in
Oh,
the
yeah.
'70s and the '80s and stuff like that, you just kept going, right? There
Yeah. There's
wasn't
no,
counseling or like you're fine, you're all stitched up, come on back and play. There was no like
hey,
counseling for that stuff, right?
yeah, they're like, you seem fine. You're playing
Seem
again.
fine.
You're doing
Yeah,
good.
you're healthy, you're physically healthy, so get back in
Mm.
there. Brains, what are those? We don't talk about those.
And then
Feelings, you stuff those
yeah,
down right now.
he said that was one of the problems was that he felt like he had recovered so quick because he didn't think about it. He just wanted to move
Yeah,
on because obviously you don't want to think about almost dying on the ice in front of like 15,000 people. But
totally.
then like he didn't take the time to fully recover or whatever inside. So episode 30.
so so Clint Malarchuk
Yeah.
had a near death experience. This is
Oh, he
actually a good
did.
segue.
This is so we're talking about quantum immortality, which I'm just misleading everybody at first because it's not like you're immortal as in you're living forever, but what it is I'll give a description from the YouTuber Arvin Ash because I when I was doing research, I was like, I better do some research because I always do research on this. And then I went to Wikipedia and it failed me because it was
Oh
like
man.
quantum immortality is when you survive quantum suicide. And I was like, what the fuck is quantum suicide? And then they're like, that's like um thinking of the Schrodinger's cat from the
Yeah.
perspective of the cat. And I was like, all right, you dorks, I'm not that's too much.
It got a
So
little hard to yeah.
yeah, I was like, I gotta go find a YouTube video or something. So this is the simplest one. Um, it's whenever this is quoting the video. Whenever you might die, there is another universe in which you are still alive, because some quantum event, even astronomically unlikely, will save you from this death. You're conscious, and then it's like, and then he goes on to explain how there's a difference between your consciousness and your soul, and it's like
Right.
your consciousness, if it gets like, we're not talking about your soul living on, we're talking about your conscious living on, because once your conscious gets separated from your body, it can't live on. So I think I had to like extrapolate my own meaning from this.
Yeah, totally.
So what I was thinking was your soul is like what you are spiritually. And when your soul is attached to a human body, then it's your consciousness. So in order for you to remember, you have to have like the meat computer. Otherwise, like, so if your soul detaches from your body, you lose your consciousness.
Right.
So when we're talking about quantum immortality, we're not talking about just the soul living on, we're talking about your consciousness living on. So,
So
and
okay,
this, yeah,
if I can simplify that even slightly further, it's
yeah.
like those cartoons when like Tom and Jerry,
Hmm.
when Jerry kills Tom and Tom's soul floats out of his body. That's the
Yeah,
detachment point.
yeah.
His conscience and his soul are floating out,
Hmm.
right? The
But
conscience is no longer in the body.
at the same time, when we're talking about quantum immortality, some of these events, like you said, near death experiences,
Yeah.
like I'll talk about one that I had where it's like you also have an out of body experience that accompanies it. And that, like, when I was on Reddit, when I originally heard about this, that people talked about that a lot, like an out of body experience slash seeing something on the other side or
Right.
whatever
Going to the light or
accompanies
that
it.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the basic, I don't know if I explained it yet, but the basic meaning is this is you have your consciousness in your body and there's it's quantum because you need like the multi-world interpretation,
Here he
which is a
goes.
quantum term, which annoyed the piss out of me because it's just like, don't call it interpretation, just say theory.
Right.
Why you got to have that 5 syllable word just to
Just
trip
a
me up
trip
when
up,
I'm yeah.
just a trip up hack podcast people who are just trying their best to make some fun content for their friends. Yeah.
Yeah. So this YouTube he goes on to say, so there's this guy Hugh Everett who proposed the many worlds theory in 1957. So it's only like,
That's not
what is
that
that,
old, really. Yeah, 70 years old.
76,
Yeah,
66 years old?
yeah.
Whatever. He believed, this Hugh Everett guy believed he would have quantum immortality and live forever, but he died of a heart attack in 1982. And then the weird part is, or the sad part is, 14 years later, his daughter committed suicide because she wanted to go to a world and where he was still alive.
Oh man. So she read like his
Yeah, she like,
ramblings, I guess, and decided that was
mm-hmm.
the course of action.
Yeah, she read his manifesto, was like, this
Yeah.
seems true. And then this other guy, Max Tegmark, he updated the quantum immortality because he says you can't cheat science to cheat death. So what that
Right.
means is, um
So like one of those laws, like one of those.
yeah,
Right.
the quantum immortality can only happen if you have like a snap binary um option of surviving or dying. So what
Oh, I
happens
gotcha. Okay.
is you have like multiple worlds theory. There you go. I'm not saying interpretation. So
You're
you
gonna
have
call it
multiple
theory. Okay.
worlds theory where there's an infinite number of worlds, and like, so everything that happens, like every time, every near death experience you have, there's a world in which you died and there's one in which you lived. So of this, like, so this can only happen with immediate death, like you like death upon impact in car accidents and
Right.
stuff. But the other
So
thing, sorry.
what it posits then is that, say people died in an instantly in a car accident in a
Mm-hmm.
separate concurrent running world, they lived through that traumatic event,
Yes.
and on a different, like, say there's two planes and they're running along and both of
Yeah.
them have the car accident theory thing going for them.
Yeah.
Boom, impact, car is dead. This one you died, but this one you lived and keep going, whereas this one
Yes.
stops.
Exactly.
But the people in this parallel, in the parallel universe, one of the many infinite
Yes.
parallel universes, they carry on with you dead, and this one carries on with you living through the traumatic experience.
Yes. So
Copy.
this guy's daughter wanted to skip into a different universe where her dad was still alive,
Right.
which is
But
a pretty
then
big gamble.
if the theory talks about infinite numbers of concurrent and parallel
Mm-hmm.
universes, again, this is where your brain explodes when you're trying to think about this, is that it could be a third one up here. So
Yeah.
here's the two cars going along. Boom. Here's the point of impact.
Yeah.
Die here, live here. Someone else is in the car and also dies, but they're on a different plane up here.
Mm-hmm.
So this one they go on living, but they're dead here and here, but they go on living in this one, and
Mm-hmm.
on and on and on and on
Yeah.
ad infinitum, right? So
Exactly.
even if she were trying to achieve that through self-death, then
Yeah. I don't
it's
think she
not a
thought it all the way
guarantee that
through.
she's going to land in the same plane of
Yeah.
existence where her father is
Mm-hmm.
still alive in that timeline, right? So yeah, so it
Yeah.
starts to get a little fucky.
Oh yeah. Like quantum stuff, it is confusing, even if you understand the writings. But she
Yeah,
was like, they do say sometimes suicide, if it's like a gunshot or whatever, you can survive it and go on into a different life. So they didn't say how she tried to commit suicide.
right.
So if it was like an instant suicide, then she could have had like survived and been into a different world. But like you said, there's infinite different ones, so you never know.
Yeah, see, I feel
Happy
like
ending though, maybe she did end up there.
that's true. And the thing is,
Mm-hmm.
we'll never know because we're not on that plane, or we're not
Yeah.
within her. Again, parallel universe theory, we're not on the plane in her current life. We've never met her. We don't know her. She
Yeah.
technically exists in this realm with us, on this path with us.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know her. We've never met her. We don't know which, if she came from another dimension to end up in this dimension,
Yeah.
right? So if you start thinking about it, it starts to hurt more in your brain. You're just like, oh
Yeah.
god, I could think of, you could think this, you could do mental gymnastics and think that forever,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it's infinite, it just keeps going.
Yeah, and like I said before, when you can't cheat science. So like are if you jump off a building or you fall off a building and it's scientifically impossible for you to survive, this won't work. Or if you have a slow death, like you get cancer and you die, it also doesn't work.
Right.
So
Because it's
those are the two rules. Yeah.
a prolonged kind of a prolonged instance of death, right?
Yeah. So
It's
it's
the same
like,
with like if you live through a self-harm death where you shoot yourself, right? Like
yeah.
if if you're still alive during that, but
Mm-hmm.
injured obviously, but still alive during that phase, it won't work because like you said earlier near the intro, it has to be a snap
Yeah.
binary decision of live or die.
And the most fucked up thing is if you shot yourself and you survived, you might have already split like with your quantum immortality, but then still end up dying of the same injury. You just didn't die immediately.
Oh man, oh that's even worse to think about.
Yeah, right?
Wow.
So like Christopher Reeve, this is a perfect example. Christopher Reeve, he falls off his horse and he breaks his neck. That could have been his quantum immortality because
Right.
in one life he could have died, and the other one he lived, and it was an immediate thing, so he lived. And then the other fucked up thing was he didn't actually break his neck when he like fell off the horse and landed. It was like he had like crunched vertebrae or whatever, but then he got up and then bent over again, and then when he bent over, it
Oh,
like
it severed the
the
column or
fucking
whatever.
broken junk in his neck severed something, and that's why he
Yeah.
was paralyzed.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh,
So he could have actually survived those two quantum things. Like when he bent over and it sliced something, he could have died again. But then he ended up dying eventually from just being in a wheelchair and like his health just collapsing
yeah,
and
just
stuff.
the
Like
deterioration of not being able to. Yeah.
he did live for years though after
Yeah,
that.
but you're, eventually your body shuts down and stops working, or
Mhm.
the link between your brain and your body stops being available, right?
Yeah. And
Man,
oh yeah, here's another. This is I actually read a fucking science paper, The
what?
Theoretical Quantum Immortality and Its Mathematical Authority. And I was like, this will explain it. And it doesn't. It just talks about like, you know how we are talking about the different math and the splitting off. It just
Yeah.
talks about that. And it was so annoying. And it
Well,
was like,
yeah,
yeah,
I mean that's the basis of quantum theory, right? Like it can,
yeah,
it's very heady stuff.
yeah. It talks
Neither
about
you or I did well in science, so here we are
yeah.
talking about it. It's not that I don't understand it. It's just that I lack the capacity and the training to know how far to go with thinking about alternate universes, right?
Yeah, and I feel like stuff like this is like if you were like Indiana Jones and you were going to try to go get like a treasure out of an ancient temple, the ancient temple with all its booby traps would just be how fucking boring this is. And the treasure in the
Yeah.
temple is is like
The
the
exciting part.
knowledge of knowing. So you're going through the temple and you're like, who, huh? And then eventually you're like, this is so fucking boring. I give up. Like it's just like here, let me read from this
Sure.
abstract of this thing. Okay, I'm gonna read enough. You tell me when you like just let me
Okay.
continue reading. Just raise your hand when you tap out.
Copy.
Quantum immortality usually refers to, in a classical sense, a person who is lucky enough to survive in any incident in the world. Such a quantity of luckiness is even big enough to keep that person away from the aging of the human body. That is, in fact, when we say that one becomes immortal. Throughout the history of the world, there have been many times when people tried to find the secret of anti aging, but this ambitious dream obviously has failed every time. This paper will discuss quantum immortality in theoretical and mathematical aspects to evaluate its authority or possibility of its existence in real life. In order to accomplish this evaluation, the concepts of the main two interpretations of quantum physics, one, the Copenhagen interpretation or non MWI interpretation, and two, many worlds interpretation or MWI, will be necessarily involved. Throughout this paper, the MWI is proven to support the theoretical quantum immortal state, which in this paper means to achieve an expected theoretical outcome in the Everett box experiment. In order to show how MWI will give its credit to quantum immortality, the idea of the infinite monkey experience is demonstrated in detail. After that, discussions of the computable probability of the outcome of the infinite monkey theorem and its pathological distribution are involved. Regardless of the situation in the Everett box, whether it is pathologically distributed or not, the mathematical outcomes show that MWI will be the only possibility of achieving the quantum immortal state during the Everett box experiment or quantum gun experiment. Finally, the paper brings out the evaluation of quantum immortality in real life stance.
Okay, so the gist of the paper is the person writing the paper is positing two theories. One, MWI theory. No, am I wrong? You're shaking your head.
No, the MWI and the multiple
Yeah.
world interpretation and the Copenhagen interpretation are two given interpretations of quantum mechanics. I
Of the
just
same,
learned this
right?
today.
Okay.
So this is another annoying
So
thing.
the
So
the paper is
quantum
positing that there's two, but only the MWI theory will work with quantum
immortality, yes.
immortality. That's what I was getting at, right? Is
Yeah.
that right? Okay.
Yeah. And then it talks about the infinite monkey experiment. That's
Which is
the
what? Can you tell me a little bit about the infinite monkey
so
experiment?
the
Because
infinite
that is what I want to know about.
have you heard the infinite, and if you give an infinite amount of monkeys infinite typewriters, they'll
Oh,
give you
yes, yeah, yeah,
Shakespeare
yeah, yeah.
short.
Totally. Okay, right.
So
Yeah.
that's what it means.
It was the best of times, it was the blurst of times.
It's a thought process to envision this whole like multiple world. So it's like you just give any number because infinity is kind of hard to wrap your mind
Oh yeah,
around.
totally.
So go with a million. So you give a million monkeys each a typewriter. Each monkey's going to hit one letter. So you have like what, 1 in 26
Yeah.
variable of which one it'll be. So of those, so every time they hit one, eventually, if you have enough monkeys and enough typewriters, they will write out a book because
Yes.
just
Yeah.
by random
Totally.
hitting
Yeah.
one of those monkeys out of yeah. But the Copenhagen, so the difference between so quantum mechanics has like you have the multiple world interpretation, which is the infinite worlds, and they split off at every decision. Whereas the Copenhagen interpretation is you have this car accident and it's like Schrodinger's box because before that accident happens, you have the superposition of both existing. And it's not till one is realized that one exists.
Right.
But with the Copenhagen, the quantum timeline is straight,
Yeah.
but it's every time like so if you die in this car accident, then that's the only reality. There isn't a split reality. But if
Gotcha.
you live in this car accident, then that reality goes through that. So it's kind of
Almost like
like,
a wormhole versus
yeah.
like a stacked methodology, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah.
Oh, what you drinking there? Is that a coffee Coke?
Yes, it is. These are
Oh
so
my
fucking
God.
good.
Sorry, it's my favorite drink. I love it.
Dude,
Just the black one. They're so good.
they taste like cola bottles, like that
Oh my God, they
candy.
totally do. They totally do.
Dude,
I love those.
there used to be a Rockstar Cola energy drink
Yeah.
and it tasted just like those cold. It was like a little
Oh
bit
man.
sweeter and more
Yeah.
like fizzy than these. I fucking loved it, but
I
apparently
can't
nobody
stop
else did
drinking. I cannot stop drinking the coffee Cokes. They're
because
so good.
they
Yeah.
discontinued it. Yeah, the
Oh
Rockstar
man.
one.
I was on the cranberry ginger ales today.
Ooh, I
Yes,
love
the
those.
limited edition cranberry ginger ales.
Good for your UTIs there, Jeffy.
Yeah, totally. Me and all my UTIs.
Yeah,
I'm constantly
UTIs.
constantly buggering up my system.
I
Yeah.
totally forgot what I was talking about before I read that. Dude, I don't
Yeah.
want to sound like a braggart, but I kind
but
of
you made
fucking
it through
read the shit out of that.
that scientific paper. I'm proud of you, man. That
Yeah,
takes that because like that takes a lot to read those papers.
that was
They're
only an
dry.
abstract though. I was like,
Oh, right, man.
I did stumble a couple times, but I didn't have to stop and start over.
So okay.
I think my out loud reading is getting better.
Yeah, it is, man. Seriously, you pronounced everything perfect.
Almost everything.
Almost everything. There's one stumble.
There was a
But yeah,
computable.
computable.
I
But
was
that was
like
pretty good, man.
computable. Yeah. Anyways, so
computable.
yeah, have
So
we?
you were saying something earlier before, and this
Yeah.
is a thing I want to bring up for you. You said that you
Mhm.
had a near death experience. Did you actually have a near death experience once, or were you just
Yeah.
using that as an example?
No, I have. So I know you have because you've
Yeah,
told me about some,
a
but like
couple of them.
this is actually how I got so interested in this topic because in a Reddit thread in High Strangeness, I think the subreddit was, there was here, I'll just read what the guy asked
Yeah,
because that'll
I
because
don't like. I've had probably at least two that I really remember near death experiences, but like I
there's
don't.
been times you should
Yeah,
I'm
there's
not
times I
saying
should.
this like a dick, but
No. There's times I shouldn't have lived through
there's
something
the
that
rally car accidents you
that
told
I
me
should.
about.
Yeah,
You
that
probably should
the
have died in one of those.
that one rally car accident. I should not have lived through that. That one. That I should not have lived through that. Yeah.
Did you did you experience any of the stuff that comes along with a
No,
near death
because
experience?
no, because because my driver, I was the co-driver. My
Yeah.
driver was knocked out, and we were
Hmm.
upside down in the car.
Hmm.
So I didn't have time to really process what was happening. My only thought was to get him out of the car, get him up the hill, check that we still have all our body parts, and go.
Oh yeah.
Right. So it was like it was just kind of a, you know, there wasn't a lot of time to
Hmm.
consider anything, and I could hear the other cars coming, and I was just
Yeah.
like, I got to get him to safety. Right. Like,
Yeah. So by quantum immortality, this was just like a regular straight through, like you
correct.
didn't
Yeah.
die. So you kind of just skip through without a hiccup. But like
Yeah.
sometimes what was happening in the Reddits, people were saying like they lost consciousness
Right.
and then they remember having the feeling of they had the choice to like be like, I'm gonna
I
die
can stay or
here.
I can go. Yeah.
Yeah, they had the choice, so they made the choice to stay and then they go back.
Yeah.
And then like here, I'll read you what was I was talking
Sure. Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
But this, so you had no like conscious
None. It
hiccups or
happened
anything?
so fast.
Yeah.
It's weird because the things I remember the crash in slow motion,
Yeah.
but it was literally mere seconds, right? But
Do
it
you, here's a good question.
okay.
Do you remember the crash at all as an exterior view of the car?
Oh no. Not during,
Yeah.
but after. So if I so when I think about it from time to time, when the car hit the first when it hit the tree stump. So
Yeah.
basically what happened was the car, we were on an off camber hill on an off camber turn, and the
What's that
car
mean? It's
so camber is the road is like this. So
yeah.
it's a forestry road. So when they grade a forestry road on the side of a hill, it's not it's cut for drainage. So it's angled slightly
Mm-hmm.
off so that the water runs off the track and down the ravine. Right. So it's cut around the corner down like that. Right. So it's not
Ooh.
cut flat across the corner.
Yeah.
It's cut on an angle down like this. So as we're coming along, the back edge of the car, the two back wheels slipped off the outside edge of the thing, and the front wheel of the camber, and the front wheels came up off the dirt. So we were skidding on the belly pan around
Yeah.
this kind of corner, and then there was a tree stump right here, and the car hit the tree stump and went over sideways and rolled over a whole bunch of times. And then we hit a
Crazy.
tree, and then it rolled
Damn.
down the ravine the
Damn.
remainder of the times. So when I think about that accident, I didn't really have time. It played out in slow motion while the car was tumbling, because I
Yeah.
remember looking up, because I like normally my head's down in the notes,
Yeah.
right? So when I looked up, I remembered seeing everything was upside down.
Hmm.
So, but that's because the car was inverted, right?
Yeah.
So the horizon was wrong, and I remember that being very weird. The
Yeah.
next the next thing was the next tree that came through the window right in front of me, like the piece of tree that came through the windscreen and
Jesus.
stopped about an inch from my face, and then
There's
the
your
car,
quantum
right?
immortality right there. That
then
fucking tree.
then I just remember nothing, like no sound, right?
Yeah.
And I'm hanging upside down because we're in our 5 point harnesses, and I'm
Yeah.
hanging upside down. The car's upside down in the ravine between a tree and the side of the hill,
Yeah.
and I'm just like sort of dangling. And I'm like, I got to get out of this car. And I just click the seatbelt harness, and then I was disoriented. So I basically just piled in head first into the roof of the car, because I was just like,
Yeah.
let go of my harness let go. And I just sort of fell like right down.
Oh yeah.
So I look over, and my driver's there, and he's sort of semi conscious. So I unhook him, I get him out of the car, and I just drag him up the hill.
Yeah.
When I think back to the accident, I do have a split second of a vertical view. I can see it in my head, and I don't know if it's
Yeah.
bullshit or if it's what it is. For a split second, I see the top of the car as it hits the tree stump and starts to
That's
flip
your
over.
out of body
So
experience.
at that point, though, I wasn't in any danger, which I find that's the weird thing, right? Because like
Yeah.
the accident hadn't started yet.
Hmm.
So the only point that I remember seeing from a bird's eye view of the car was the immediate moment of impact when it hits the tree and starts its rollover.
So like I'm gonna get woo woo here. So what I
Okay.
feel like is sometimes we have out of body experiences as our consciousness or our soul like can kind of be like,
Shit's
holy
about to go
fuck,
down.
shit's about
Yeah.
to go down. I'm just gonna step out in case this hurts a lot. And then so like
Okay.
with
I can see that. Yep. Okay. I
so then
actually I
it
can see
like
that.
yeah. So and then it like kind of go, then it's like, okay, we're still gonna live, we dodge this, we skip to the timeline where Jeff's still alive, so we go back, the
So I'm back
consciousness
in the car.
reattaches.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas if the immortality didn't catch and you did die there, that might have been the point where you separate from it. It's like, it's weird because it's like you want to talk about this like all sciencey, but
Right.
there's obviously a woo woo element.
There's
And
it's a little hard to quantify a feeling of being outside of your vehicle
yeah,
when you're still clearly inside the vehicle.
so I like to talk about this like the soul and the spirit and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that's when your soul was like
Maybe
gonna
we
make
should
the,
maybe we should bail and go to the other
yeah,
timeline.
like that's when your soul
Yeah.
was making the choice to remain a consciousness or become a soul again and go up to like the soul cloud or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to explain
Here
how
comes
my belief that I'm working with on like the afterlife and what happens. So, have you ever heard the term book visitation?
no, I
So
can't.
it's a
If I'm
term,
being honest, I can't. I've heard
yeah.
both of those terms, but never together.
So in esoteric knowledge and stuff, the term book visitation is when at some point in your life you get a book that sets you on a path. So I guess it'd be like another split in the multi world. It like puts you on one. And when I was in college, I was in the library and I took out a book on out of body experiences. And it was a book by Robert Monroe. And it's weird because on The Simpsons, there was a character named Robert A. Monroe. So like I couldn't remember if this was real.
Or
His
or a figment of your
Yeah, like
yeah.
I couldn't remember if that was his real name or the Simpsons name. And then
Right.
when I tried to Google it like later, because I was like, oh, I want to read this. Because I read when I read books in college, I would read them. And that was like almost 30 years ago, or it was
Yeah.
23 years ago or whatever. They're gone.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to read it again. But in this book, I remember he was talking about like having out of body experiences and astral travel and stuff. And he got so good at it that he wanted to go visit and see where like his soul, his like astral projecting, like the soul, where that came from.
Right.
And he said in the universe somewhere, and this actually kind of ties in with the Gnostic episodes we had,
Yeah.
there's this like rainbow prismatic kind of well of souls. And it's like, did you ever watch Star Trek DS or Deep Space Nine?
No, it's the one I've never watched.
Anyways, that would, if you know what I'm talking about, it's Odo's collective of the people. But anyways, it's like they're like shapeshifters,
Yep.
but they go and like they go to this pool and they kind of just live there, and they're still separate, but they're all joined. So it'd be like, I guess, if you take frogs' eggs in a pond,
Right.
you know how they all like
Yeah, they
they
gel together. Yeah.
yeah, they gel together, but they're still each individual frog's
Individual.
eggs.
Yeah.
So this is what happens to our souls. And I don't know, it's like it's kind of this like patchwork Frankenstein belief I'm coming up with. So I feel like our whole point of this life, this consciousness, the time our soul attaches to this body, is to have all these experiences, go back to this like pool and be like, hey, this is what I learned. It
Right.
would be kind of like giving your upload
Yeah,
to a
you're
big
uploading your
computer.
knowledge to
Yeah.
the experience cloud.
Yeah. So
So that the rest
what
of
happened was
humanity.
when you were looking down at your car, like it might not even been a conscious on you like decision, but
Yeah,
at some point there was the decision either by external forces or your soul or whatever to go back into your body and to keep learning more from this life and this consciousness instead of going back to report what you already know.
that's true. Yeah, okay. So I can see that.
Yeah.
Um, to go one further
Mm-hmm.
on that too, the maybe the purpose of putting me this is again goes to like
Mm-hmm.
this is borderline religion and
Oh
weirdness.
fuck, I love it. Give it to me.
Maybe the purpose was for me to make sure that my driver got safe as well
That's
because
true.
he was not connected to the whole thing, right? Like if he's unconscious or like semi-conscious,
Mm-hmm.
because he had no idea what was going on either. And like when I looked at him, he was not like his arms when the car was crashing were just doing this, and I'm like, oh my god, like
Yeah.
is he alive? Right? That was my only thought. So
Was
when
he
somebody
hurt?
no, he was well, we were protected by a roll cage, right? So the
Yeah.
car basically like if you take a pop can and twist it, the car kind of looked like that.
Okay.
Three of the four wheels blew off. There was fluid and glass all over the place. But
Damn.
basically, um, we were fine inside the car, right?
Oh,
Like
okay.
I had cuts and scrapes and scratches and
Mhm.
bruises, and I had a, oh my god, the the fucking the you know how 5 point harness works. You know where
Yeah.
the fifth point of the harness is,
Your
right in the
dick.
old center
Dick.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had like these two huge cuts on either side of my junk on the inside of my legs from the yoinking of the harness up into my
Yoink.
crotchal area, right? So anyway, yeah, what I meant by that was like there may have been that split second where my soul's like, nope, you need to stay
Mhm.
because your driver needs help.
Yeah, that was the reason I was asking if he was hurt. Like, it's like
Yeah,
if you wouldn't have regained consciousness in that car to like help pull him out,
we
would
both
he
could have.
have passed on, or like
We
would you have both died?
no, he was. It ended up he was okay. He had a concussion
Hmm.
and I don't know, some nervous system thing, and I they checked me out and I was totally fine. Like I had
Really?
zero other. I had glass cuts all over my face from the windshield impact.
Oh, you must have looked so tough.
I always
Just
look tough.
dragging this guy out of
Like
this ravine, just fucking blood on your face to
my
be
this
like,
the underside of
yeah.
my eyebrows from hockey and from rally cars is just scars anyway,
Oh
so it doesn't even
man.
matter anymore. So yeah, I don't look tough anymore at all. But yeah, I look pretty badass coming out of that, and
How awesome.
walking like my dick fell off. But
How awesome would it be if you could have an out of body experience with a camera and just go back through your life and like
oh
just like take pictures for sexy calendar, and then like
man,
just to impress people, like you have the Jeff rescuing his driver from a rally car and his face is all bloodied up and you're
you
just like
just you make it
dragging this
sound so
guy.
glorious, like I'm the star of an action hero. I was just like, please let's not die out here on this random
Bro,
hill.
yeah, but
Yeah.
I never fucking pulled a driver out of a rally car and had cuts on. I've had cuts on my face, but not a lot.
Oh man. See, it's so weird, man. Like when you say it, it sounds pretty cool, but in the moment, it was like, and I told you, like when I got him up to the side of the hill, the another rally car came by, and it was on that basically on that same corner, and we
Yeah.
know the guy, and I knew the car, I've seen it a million times. I know the guy really well, the driver. As he comes around the corner, I locked eyes with him. I've got my driver, I'm carrying him up with me on the side, and I turn and I look and I'm staring him in the eyeballs. He's in his car, and as he whips around the corner, he fucking sprays us with gravel, right? And it wasn't, he didn't mean to. It was just
Yeah.
that's the nature of the corner. That's
Yeah.
the nature of rally cars. The guy's going 100 kilometers an hour on a Forest Service road. And as the car comes around the corner the same way we did, it just fires up a shit ton of gravel. We get absolutely peppered. And I'm just like, are you
Oh,
fucking kidding me? And
insult
then,
to injury.
right. And then I scrambled up with my driver up to the ridge above the road. And we had to sit
Mhm.
there because we were in fourth place at that point
Yeah.
in the race, and there are about 30 cars. And
Oh,
the guy that sprayed us with gravel, he was in position 6.
yeah.
So we had to sit there and wait for the rest of the cars to come by in like approximately 1 minute intervals. So we were up
Oh,
there for
wow.
about 40 minutes waiting for the sweep car to come pick us up.
Jesus.
Just sitting on the side of the hill, hanging out. I was
So
just checking on the driver and making sure he was okay.
I guess the guy in sixth would have told the people at the
Yes,
finish
yeah.
line,
So when he
but
get yeah, because the
was
stages are
there,
short, right? They're like they're
yeah.
1.6 kilometers or 2 kilometers
Oh, okay.
maximum usually, right? Like they're quick, sharp, short. This is stage rally, so they're very
Mm,
quick stages. So he would
yeah.
have pitted and then reported back that he saw us on the road, right?
Hmm.
So they would have known, but there's nothing you can do until all the cars pass through and then sweep comes through and
Yeah.
picks us all up.
But I guess like now they have like cameras and like
Yeah, now
GPS and
well,
stuff.
dude, this was 2006 in the Canadian Rally Championships. There's
Oh,
like no
wow.
cameras, there's no like, there's cameras, but they're usually in certain specific stages where
Yeah.
they set up, and we all know each other, and we know the camera
Yeah.
guy, and we know the guy who's recording it, right?
You figure they would have had a camera on that corner. But anyways,
So that was the
um,
thing. We were the only car that went off on that corner. A
oh
bunch of other
wow.
cars reported that it was loose, but they didn't report that they had any other troubles with it.
Mm,
So they take
um,
that into account when they build the rally routes. Like generally it's pretty safe, right?
yeah.
Like it's driver error for the most part when these things happen, right?
Okay.
So they run the stages first. Like they call it a recce car. A recce car runs the stages before the race even happens, right? Before when they plan all the routes, they check the routes for safety. Day of, they drive the route to make sure it's okay. So
Yeah.
it was just an overcook on our part, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I got really rally intense. It's
No,
been
that's
years,
fine.
but yeah.
I love it. Where was this?
Calgary ish,
Oh,
Okotoks. Either Okotoks or
okay.
Cochrane. I can't remember. Like Rally of the Ranchlands. It's somewhere out there.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Cochrane makes sense because it has like the valley,
Yes.
so there would
Yeah.
be some hills and stuff. I
Yeah.
just always assume it was BC when you said Forestry Road and
Oh
stuff
yeah. No. No. There.
and
We
hills.
kind of raced all over the place. So the
That's
series
fun.
goes like kind of all through Western Canada and then sometimes into the east into Quebec. And like a couple rallies out that way.
Well, my out of body experience was a lot less hard dick than that.
Our
Oh,
dick.
anyways, yeah, I
Oh,
was
you were gonna
talking
read me
about.
something. I'm sorry. I totally cut you off.
No, I wasn't going to read you something. I was talking about book visitation.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, in the search of esoteric knowledge and stuff, there's like a book. When a book just comes into your life and leads you on a path, that's called like a book visitation. And some people think there's like kind of like a paranormal or whatever reason that you've received that book anyway. Like, if you listen to usually anybody who's like super into paranormal shit, it'll always start with them getting a book. It's sometimes a lot of times it's like in their 20s or their teens.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I don't know if this was a book visitation, but it was like that whole out of body experience. So I learned about all that and it radically changed the way I view the universe because the only framework I had for souls and everything was
It
when
was
I had
through religion, right?
yeah, was the Christian religion I'd grown up in. And this was before I learned about Gnosticism or the one true spirit and all that stuff. So that pool of souls just got burnt into my mind.
Man,
So I
that's
don't
weird.
know. Yeah.
Do you find it strange that like the okay, let me ask you this then. Are you
Mhm.
conflating or equating that book about astral projection that you found as your book visitation?
Yes.
Do you
I
find
well,
that
I'm
are
saying
you like
it,
I'm not trying to be a dick about it. I'm simply
yeah.
like I'm wondering like is that actually the book that changed the course of your life or is that the book that you're just applying for it for this?
Well, it's the book I'm applying for this because
Yeah.
it did change my life in a
Yeah,
way.
it
And
changed
it's
your
like
perspective. It did.
it's
Yeah.
like I'm not saying it like I'm not like an
You're not saying
expert
that
in
was
out
your
of
book
body
visitation for
experiences.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Okay. Okay.
it didn't change my life dedication and what
But
I'm
it changed your
dedicated to.
perception of
Yeah,
souls and
exactly.
yeah. Okay, I got it. Yeah, right. Okay.
And I
I
did
was
read
just
it and I tried to do out of body experiences for a bit. And then I, like everything that I do, I just got bored and gave up.
I was just like I was thinking about the sheer number of books I've read over the course of my life.
Mhm.
Not a brag, simply just
Yeah.
like I've read
I
so
read
many
a
books.
lot of
I
books.
can't, well, I was like trying to think of a book that was pivotal and like and now I don't know if it's because it was the power of suggestion when you said it. I checked
Hmm.
out I was struggling when I moved around a lot as a kid and I was at our school library and I checked out a book on karate because I wanted to try to learn how to do karate to
Nice.
defend myself from
Yeah.
getting picked on all the time. So I
Hmm.
signed this karate book out and I remember reading it and I remember the cover super vividly. And
Hmm.
like I was trying if you ever tried to learn karate from a book, it's
No.
fucking like what a Jeff solution to this. I'm gonna learn karate from a book. I'm not gonna learn it from a person who knows how to
Yeah.
do it. And I'm gonna learn my mechanics from a book on how to
Yeah.
punch and fight. I fucking read this karate book. I checked it out. I rechecked it out. I checked it out again and I read the shit out of that book. And then I was like trying to do karate in the gym by myself. And this
Yeah.
kid comes up to me who was in Taekwondo and he's like, what in the fuck are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
what are these moves you're doing? And I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm trying to learn karate from this book. And he's like, you're an idiot. Come here. I'll show you how this works.
Oh,
Right.
nice.
So, but yeah,
Yeah.
but it was like, was that the sort of pivotal book that like that
Hmm.
one has nothing to do with astral projection or anything, but it was this pivotal book that like made me learn to ask for help from people rather than sometimes from books.
Yeah. There you go. So
Right.
with book visitation, I know the term is used a lot when it's like supernatural forces place that book in your hand.
Yeah. So that's
So
weird.
it's like usually it's like a
I've had
librarian will be like, I know what book you need and
yeah,
give
yeah,
you
yeah.
a
Someone
specific
suggests
book.
it to you, right?
Yeah.
And I
Or
think
a
I've had
book
a couple of
falls out of
those.
a shelf.
Yeah. Oh
or something
yeah,
like that.
like very Ghostbusters, but yeah, I know what you
Exactly.
right. I totally know what you
Hmm.
mean, and I can't think of an instance where that happened to me, but I can think of a couple of instances and a couple of very specific books that have disappeared from my collection.
Oh, really?
Right,
Mm-hmm.
that like, or for lack of a better term, I can't find them. One of them,
Yeah.
I've never been able to find that the book exists.
Mm.
So
Maybe it's a Mandela effect book.
this is what I'm talking about. So this is gonna sound crazy. This is gonna sound
Oh,
crazy.
fuck.
I
I love it.
won.
I'm like
Oh my
half.
god.
I got a half for you
Yeah.
just telling me how crazy this is going to be.
So I
I'm
got
so into this right now.
I just turned Dale on. That's how I feel. That's
Yes.
awesome.
Give
So
me
I
the
was
crazy.
okay. So this is one of those things where like I hadn't thought about it for years. And then one day I
Mhm.
thought about it. I was like, I wonder if I could find this book again. So I was like a preteen, like 12, 13, kind of like in that kind of range, right?
I
Like
rescind all my erection jokes.
yeah. Anyway, I'm 9 years old and I'm having a shower. Dale's like, shit, 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 stop, 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 shit. I
Stop.
gotta edit this out.
Stop the
Yeah,
recording
yeah,
for
yeah.
erasing this.
No, 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 no. I was at a hockey tournament and I won a book. So you know, there's like random draw prizes. I won a book, and it wasn't just a book.
Not that a hockey player wants more than a
Not that
book.
fucking no, but okay. It was kind of like a comic book. You know those
Mhm.
like sort of anthologies.
Graphic novels.
Yeah, like it's not really a graphic novel, but it's like an anthology of a bunch of comics that some guy drew, right? Like
Yeah.
I can't give
Oh,
you
like a Calvin and Hobbes book.
yeah, like Calvin Hobbes or like a Far Side or something, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like the guy does a weekly comic and then they compile it into a book,
Okay.
a year in review of all of the comics that
Yeah.
this person did. So this guy, I don't even remember the name of the artist, but the comic was called Dupe, Dupe with an accent,
Accent
accent
aigu.
grave, accent aigu on the e, and or I think this is and I just remember it because like it had like stoner content in it and I had like no experience with drugs at that time in my life
Yeah.
and I've never been able to find. I know you're researching it right now and you can't find it anywhere.
I'm looking for dupe comic, but it just comes up with the character Jamie Madrox, who's multiple man in Marvel.
Yes, so there's
So,
this is the fucking craziest thing, and I remember reading that book when I was a kid because I was trying to understand what this book was about, right?
mhm.
And it was very much uh like it was stoner humor.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know how this got into the hands. I must have just won a random door prize that was for everyone. But I mean, it was the 80s, so what the fuck, right? Who
Yeah.
knows? But it was very like these two stoner 70s guys, and one of them was called Dupe. His name was Dupe or Dupe or whatever, right? I'm not even really
Yeah.
sure. But I don't know. So I had that book forever, and it was in my bookshelf, and I had it. And of course, I moved around a lot, right?
Mhm.
And um, I remember one day I was unpacking all my shit at an apartment and I'm like laying everything out and I've had this book for years and now it's not here anymore.
Mhm.
It's just not in my collection. So like I got my several boxes of books. I put up my bookshelf. I throw my books in the bookshelf and fucking Dupe isn't there.
Uh-oh.
It's not there. And I was like, okay, it must have fallen out. It must be in another box or
Mhm.
whatever. And then years go by and I forgot about it. And then I'm like fully an adult, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, in
Erections
my
back.
erections back. I'm fully
Now that
like
it's legal.
I'm in my late 20s.
Mhm.
Uh, you know, my wife and I, we weren't quite married yet, but we moved in together. And
Yeah.
I'm looking through my collection, and we're like, we're starting to put our books together and stuff, right? And we're like putting these books all together and looking on the shelf, and I'm like, I wonder whatever happened. I had this book. And I tried to explain this to her. I'm like, I had this book, and it was called like Dupe or Dupe or
Mhm.
Dupey or something. And it was like this weird stoner like comic book. And I won it when I was a kid, and I've had it forever. And I all of a sudden don't have this book anymore. And I wonder whatever happened to it. And of course, this is like we're well into the internet at this point, right?
Yeah.
But like when I was younger, I couldn't just research it on the internet because it didn't exist.
Mhm.
Try to explain that you're older than the internet to, to your children. It doesn't work. They're like, what? I don't fucking get what you're talking about. It's the weirdest conversation to have. You're older than the internet? Yeah, man, I'm older than we didn't have it when I was your age.
Yeah, we just had to listen to our older dickhead brother and just assume
Yeah.
what he was telling us was true,
If we wanted to
even
see
though he's
titties, we had to go out to the woods and find a porno
yeah,
stashed in the woods somewhere. That was what you look for, the little
yeah,
disturbed area in the woods, and there was some porn stashed in there.
yeah. I
I,
wonder if
so yeah,
with the
I never
internet,
found that book. It just disappeared. I just one day I no longer had it, and I
I
had it for
wonder,
fucking
yeah,
years.
I
So
wonder
yeah,
what
I
the
don't.
internet version of a book visitation would be.
Yeah, right. Because like, yeah, what's a book? But yeah,
Maybe
it's
maybe it's stumbling on an internet or a subreddit about fucking quantum
oh my
immortality.
god. I don't know if you remember. Do you remember in university another book that I had that disappeared, but I think somebody just took it because it was awesome.
Mhm.
It was a comic book also. Space Moose. Do you remember Space Moose?
Yes,
So
I
Space Moose
remember
used to have
that.
a. It was the University of Alberta. The Gateway used to run that comic Space Moose, and it was like completely depraved, like right up my alley. It was totally funny.
Yeah.
He's basically a humanoid moose in a Star Trek uniform that did all kinds of like bananas shit that would not fly today. And
Yet
it
it was in like a
was
university
in a university
newspaper.
newspaper forever. But anyway,
Mhm.
the that book, oh, I had like a weird thing about that book too. That book
Mhm.
disappeared on me as well, but I think somebody took it because it was a cool book and it was really funny. But that was another one of those ones that was like sort of a pivotal thing in my life, that like that was sort of where a lot of my humor came from too. I
Yeah.
think like it changed who I was.
Mhm.
I had a different tactic. I was going to talk about you and I in university because I was right around that same time.
Yeah, when we were working at the Omega
Yeah,
at
I'm
the
trying to remember what that was, where I was
University
going with
College
that.
of the Caribou, the
Many
UCC.
years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, just that time in our lives too, right? Where it was like you're learning things and you're discovering new
Mhm.
opportunities with a bigger brain, and you're more open and receptive to that kind of stuff. Man,
Yeah.
yeah. And like maybe that's sort of one of those things that, I don't think I died at all during university. I was pretty much studying and doing stuff and trying
Yeah.
to graduate. But yeah, I like, yeah, I can't. So many books. People gave me books all the time in university too, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I was gonna read you the actual
Oh yeah,
subreddit.
yeah, yeah. You have that. Let's go. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
yeah.
I waned
So
off into boringness. Dale lost his wood
no,
completely.
whatever, buddy.
Sorry.
That's what this is about. I was again, as every episode with the Dale show, I was scared we wouldn't be able to fill enough because I didn't do any research. It's like, I don't know if we're going to be able to fill this whole podcast. And it's like, we're an hour deep and I still got stuff to talk about.
Man, the thing is though, you get me talking about life experiences, and I've lived like
Mhm.
a weird cobbled together kind of full life. So there's usually, whenever you bring up something weird and paranormal, there's something that happened in my life that's weird and
Yeah.
paranormal that goes along with it that
Dude,
I've
I
never
love
thought
it
about
because
until you bring it up.
I just had grew up in a town of 8,000 on a farm. So my life was pretty dull. Oh, which reminds me of my out of body experience, but I'll explain that after I talk about this subreddit.
Yeah,
So
yeah, let's hear it.
the subreddit is high strangeness. I fucking love it just because it's people talking about weird shit. So this guy was small scale quantum immortality test. Have you been at least one situation which could easily have led to your death? Or can you with confidence say you have it? And it was basically just a poll that have you ever been close to dying or in a situation when you could have easily died? And it was like one, no, not to my knowledge. Two, yes, but only once or twice, or three, yes, many, many times. And I was like, obviously a two. I only remember having a couple near death experiences, but it's like, I was like you, I don't know if they were near death because I didn't go into like the past, the void or whatever, but I did have one where I had like an out of body experience. And that was when I was like a little kid. I think it was like 5. So we were in the hayloft, me and my mom, and I think my brother or sister, my older brother or my older sister was there with us, but I can't remember because it's just kind of like cloudy
Yeah,
because
it's
I was so
hazy,
young.
right?
So
Yeah.
it's like in the hayloft is like it's like 20 feet above, 15 to 20 feet. I don't know how
It's
high
high up. It's
exactly,
high up in the barn, right? You're
but it's like
above the
yeah, but
main
it's like
floor of the barn.
so it's like the second floor of the barn, so it's pretty high. But then it was also full of hay, so the hay was stacked up. So you add another 5 to 10 feet, and we're on top of that. and my mom was like, let's feed some hay to these cows. So she goes this way, and I have like a handful of hay like this because I'm like an idiot kid, and I'm like, I want
Yeah.
to carry all the hay.
All
So I
the
grab,
hay.
and
Mom, look
like
how strong I
hay's,
am. Yeah.
yeah, hay's pretty loose if you grab, or
Yes.
it's pretty light if you grab it all loose. So I grab it. So it's in front of my face. And it's like I said, she went this way, trying to like, so she
Yeah.
went this way, and I just went like that way. So she didn't really notice that I wasn't right behind her, and I couldn't see. And then I walked, and she said she turned around just as I fell down a hole.
Oh my
So
God.
I fell down the hole onto cement. And it's like you hear that, you're like 25 to 30
Dude,
feet onto cement. Like
you
you
should have
fucking,
broken both your legs.
yeah, you should have been fucking mangled. And I specifically remember looking down, like seeing my mom beside me,
Yeah.
looking over the hole down. And I remember looking down, like, and then seeing myself on the ground.
No way.
And I was just like stunned, like sitting in cow shit on the cement, like looking around. And then I like looked up, and as like I was watching my head tilt up towards me, and as soon as like my
You
eyes met
locked
with
eyes with
myself,
yourself?
but it's like instantly I was back in my body, and I was just fucking scream crying, like ugly crying, like.
Yeah.
But I was like, I guess I was like just
Wow.
in shock or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the most fucked up thing about this is I was completely fine.
Yeah. You got up and walked away from
Yeah,
it.
like I asked my mom, I was like, I can't be remembering this right, mom. I don't remember what happened. Because this discussion came up a while ago because we were talking about broken bones.
Yeah.
Because nobody in my family's broken a bone, and like
I've broken enough bones for all your family.
so, one of my jokes, and I always thought that I always like in the back of my mind, it's like I've never broken a bone, but I've never done anything to bone break worthy. But then I
Yeah.
remembered this story, and I was like, well,
Yeah,
that
you
was
should have
bone.
had several broken
I was
bones.
like, am I fucking Bruce Willis right now? Am I unbreakable?
Unbreakable.
And then so I was talking to my mom. I was like, did I like fucking get like a twisted ankle or fucked up? Did I like have a concussion? Was I like unconscious? She's like, no, we just looked down and we saw you crying. And then we went down there and you were fine. And I was like,
Fuck.
that's so fucked up. So it's
That's
like,
so crazy.
yeah, and like that's like how you said you saw yourself outside of the
Yeah, yeah,
car.
yeah.
I think that's
I
the
didn't
same
see
way.
me though.
Well,
I
I mean,
only
you
saw
saw
the
the car,
car.
but
Yeah.
like, so for me, I always thought of it just like when we were talking about yours, it's like maybe your soul didn't want to go through the pain or whatever.
Yeah.
And for me, I always thought of it like a cartoon where I just fell out of my soul.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah. You left it
nobody
at the
saw it.
top
So
of
it's
the
just like,
hayloft.
yeah. So it was like a cartoon where it was like, yeah. So that would be the quantum
Dude.
immortality that I can remember. Like I've had more like car accidents. You know, when you're like one of the examples is you're driving down the road and then you kind of lose control, like in winter or whatever. Like we
Yeah.
grew up in the interior,
Yeah.
so we fucking
We know
drove
what
in
it's like
snow
to
and
drive
ice.
on. Yeah. You suck it up and you dig your car out and you drive to school or work.
Yeah. Or there would be those times when you're driving on ice and then you lose control on ice. You'd be like, this is it.
This is it.
And
This
then it
is
would
the
just be
end.
like, whoop, whoop, and then you just keep
Yeah.
going. And you're like,
Man,
that's it?
I love that you and I like we have that same sort of growing up experience where you're just like, no,
Yeah.
that's it. You just like there's that sort of when you grow up in the middle of a snowy
Yeah.
interior winter and you lose control of your car and you
Mhm.
just you just give up. You're just like, this is it. And you literally, I don't know how to explain this because people from the interior get this. You
Mhm.
literally give up. You just accept death.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
on an
That's
icy
exactly
road,
it.
you're just like, well, fuck, that's it. Right. And like, I don't know. I don't know if I can count. It's been a lot. There's been a lot of times where I've been like, fuck, this is it.
Yeah.
Fuck, that's all she wrote. It's the end of
Yeah,
the day.
exactly. And it's like each one of those could
Could be a,
be
oh my God. I got
so
chills. Is
yeah,
that weird? I didn't
we
get a
could be
boner, but I got
going
chills.
we could go be going from category 2 to
Yeah.
once or twice to 3 all the fucking time, and I can't
Right.
count.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There was this other time when in Calgary, me and my brother, my older brother lives in Calgary, and we're driving to Edmonton, and he had this old fucking, I think it was a Ford LTD, or it could have been like it was one of those big old
Yeah.
heavy sedans. I don't know if it was an LTD or like a Crown Vic
Dude, we
or
all
like
had those, but or a Chevy
yeah,
Biscayne or some bullshit that's huge.
yeah. And
Yeah,
this
totally.
was
A big V8 pre-gas embargo
yeah,
car. Yeah,
yeah. I
that we
think
all
this was
got stuck
like
with as teenagers.
this had to be like 2003, four, whatever. So
Got
we're
Oldsmobile
driving down the
Cutlass Sierra.
highway and he goes to pass somebody. And then it was just like, it was like a slow mo where you're like driving, you're going around, you're like, all right. And then it's just like, you just feel it. You're like, wait, are we not straight? And you're like, oh,
Yeah,
we're not straight.
we're not straight.
And then we just did fucking like two 360s and then like went in the ditch. But it's like, it was in Alberta. So it was like, there's the highway and then there's like an embankment
Yeah,
that's like there's like
slope.
10
That's
feet of
graded. Yeah,
embankment. Yeah. So we kind of just like kind of slid to a still, and the guy we passed just drove by. And then I just like fucking looked at Neil, and he was just like, had his hands on the steering wheel, and he's like, oh shit. And I looked at him, and I just started fucking laughing. I was like,
yeah. Because what
holy
do you do?
shit.
Yeah,
Because it was kind of hilarious and awesome at the same time, but
yeah. There's that
it was
split second
nuts.
where you're like, we just about died, so let's
Yeah.
laugh because this is funny.
Oh, yeah.
So right, yeah.
Hmm.
Oh my god, so that's happened so many times, man. So many
Yeah.
times. Probably should have died there. Instead, we
Yeah.
lived just fine.
And it's funny that because when you're going to get into a car accident and we're like, this is it, and you just accept it, that's like the proper thing to do. Because if you're like, oh no, and you like tense up, that's when you like rip muscles and soft tissue and shit.
Yeah, I remember we had this the same discussion came up, and I don't know, I don't really don't want to talk about like drinking and driving, but like um whenever you hear about like we used to have this presenter that would come to our school and talk about drinking and
Mm-hmm.
driving. And I remember one time they said that somebody asked them a question and they're like, oh yeah, the usually the person who's drunk lives
Yeah.
in a collision because of that exact reason. Their their body is not it doesn't stiffen up. It doesn't like
Mm-hmm.
oh, it doesn't have that panic response. So the
Mm-hmm.
person in the other car dies because they have that panic response and their body goes stiff and their brain gets sharp. And the drunk person is just like and they don't
Yeah.
have that same reaction. So their body's malleable and it flops around and they're fine. They walk away
Mm-hmm.
unscathed. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of it is that like tensing up situation, right? And I think it's sort of akin to like that slide in winter thing where you just give up as a person who's been through hellish winters. You're just like, fucking there she goes. And you just
Yeah.
hold on tight and you hope for the best. Or you don't even hold on tight. You
Yeah.
hold on loose and
Yeah.
wait for the hit. And you try to
Or
get as floppy as possible so that
or
you
maybe it's just us and we're like, well, at least I won't have to go to work tomorrow if I'm
dude,
dead.
I hope it's not just us. I hope somebody else watches this and goes, I totally that happens to me too. I just give up on the
Yeah.
interior. I'm like, fuck. I was just, I wasn't really relieved to hear you say that because I'm pretty sure this happens to other people. But
Yeah.
right, I'm like, fuck, I can remember tons of times. Well,
Oh
fuck, we're
yeah.
dead. So like
Yeah. Actually, I
coming down from a
remember
ski hill or whatever, right?
a stand-up comedian talk joking about it and how like you have slow motion accidents, but it's like you're just like in regular time, but it's like the car's going slow because you were like starting to stop, but then you're like like just off and you're just sliding on ice and, and he's like someone's yelling like pump the brakes and you're like I'm trying.
Yeah,
It's just all this stuff you try to do.
yeah. Yeah, my favorite's the people shouting instructions like I didn't have my foot slammed on it. It's called fucking ice, man. That's why my
Yeah.
foot is on the brakes. The wheels are not connected to the ground.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're on a thin sheet of frozen water that is
Yeah.
preventing them from actually stopping.
And the funny thing is, there's a lot of accidents I got out of just because I like had practice from fucking
Oh yeah.
around on snow so much.
Yep.
Like just
Totally.
going into like um parking lots and like doing donuts and shit.
Did you ever do because like you probably like me, like when you were able to afford a car, it was probably like a front wheel drive car. Did you ever do McShitty slides?
Is that
You go to McDonald's and you steal a couple of trays and stick them under your back wheels and yank the e-brake and then do disc donuts all the way around,
oh, I
all the way.
never tried that.
We
That's
used to fucking do that
hilarious.
all the time. It's the best. It's so much fun.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. Yeah. My son saw that happening on YouTube and he was like, hey, dad, look at this. And I was like, ah, shit. Yeah, I know
Did
that. I've
you
done that before.
Oh, here's another example of maybe a quantum immortality. Did you ever do like the same thing, but you take like a McDonald's train, you surf on it, like you car
Oh
surf?
God, no, no,
So
no.
this one time I was
That's
holding onto my car and someone else was driving and I was standing on a McDonald's tray and I was sliding and I was like, go faster. And they're like, shut up, you're crazy, Dale. I was like, go faster. And I was like, yeah. And then it was like,
yeah, it
it
just
was
shoots out from
plastic.
underneath you.
No, so it's like, I guess it ground down
Yeah,
enough
wears
that
down. Yeah,
and then it just stuck.
yeah.
Like the tray just stuck to the pavement. And then I was like, and I took one step, the shoe flew off, took another step, that shoe flew off. And then I kind of like fell. And as I was falling, I was rolling. And it even like the car even ran over my foot, but like nothing happened. Like I didn't get injured again because I'm Bruce Willis from Unbreakable. And I fucking as I was falling, I turned and I landed on like my back and
Yeah,
side and just kind of skidded on the pavement. But I was wearing like skater fashion. So I had these thick,
yeah. Thick
baggy
pants.
pants and a big, thick hoodie. So it kind of like it did wear through them, but just so I just
Yeah,
got a bunch of
like a road rash, a little bit of
yeah.
abrasions.
And then my friends are like, oh my God. And they stop the car and then I jump up. I'm like, whoa.
Totally unscathed.
They're
Classic.
just like, they're just like, we're going home.
Yeah,
And I was like,
that's
yeah,
the end
that
of the night.
tracks.
That's the end of the night for
That's
sure.
another thing too. Just like the accepting the death of the car slide when you're just like, yeah, we're going home now.
Yeah, yeah.
Just
That's
after
it.
something
That's
like almost catastrophic
yeah.
happens.
Let's go home gingerly. Go home with
Mhm.
not with haste, but with care. Yeah, totally.
uh,
Man, we that reminded me of a story when we I had a couple of buddies. One of my friends in high school had a like an OJ Bronco, like one of
yeah,
the old Ford Bronco kind of SUVs, and we
nice.
tied a GT snow racer to the back of it with about I don't know 40 feet of rope, and we went up
Oh,
to
Jesus.
you know where Paul Lake is in Kamloops,
Yeah.
just like on the way up to Harper Mountain.
Mhm.
The lake used to freeze over back in the day, and we went up there in the truck, and I was sitting in the back, and we had the rope tied onto the trailer hitch, and my one buddy's driving, and my other buddy's on the GT snow racer. We were ripping down the lake, pulling
Yeah.
him behind the truck. We're going like 60 kilometers an
Oh my
hour,
God. It sounds
and
like the
then
most
he would
fun.
just reef on the wheel and send the GT snow racer sideways, just skidding. And my other buddy's like, just out into the darkness. Like it's fucking pitch black out there, right? And you just hear this, just disappeared. And I'm just like, stop the truck, stop the truck, stop the truck. Where the hell is he? Where the hell is he? We gotta go back. And then we would drive the truck back and follow the GT snow racer tracks until they stopped. And then they like literally you can see the tracks in the three-prong tracks in the
Yeah.
snow. And then it's just 4 feet and then a dent in the snow, and then another 2 feet and a dent in the snow, and then closer dents in the snow. Okay. So it's over in the fucking bushes. Like a solid football field away from where he left the snow racer, like a solid 100 yards out into the shrubs.
Oh,
Just
that's so
right.
funny.
So not
Oh,
my near death experience,
yeah.
but but I'm pretty sure my buddy died almost
Yeah.
died that night. So
You saw that guy cheat Quantumania or
oh,
whatever.
he did. He absolutely did. Yeah,
Uh,
we hung out a little while back. So like I hadn't seen him in 15, 20 years. So we hung
yeah.
out a little while back. He's still fine. And we were talking about that story. And I'm like, he's like, I'm pretty sure it didn't do any permanent damage.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So that's the kind of shit that like, you know, we did do stuff like
Oh
that.
yeah, like well, it's
Where you're like,
because
we cheated death a
we
number of
had no
times.
internet, so
There
we
was no
just fucked
internet, so we
around.
gotta create our own fun.
Yeah.
You're 16 and you live in the goddamn shrubs.
Oh yeah, like
Yeah.
fucking just growing up in a small town, nothing to do, and it's like can't afford drugs, can't get drunk every night, so you
Yeah.
just do dumb shit.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. I wonder, like, I feel like there's more near death experiences I had, or maybe not even near death experiences, but just where you could have died.
Yeah,
Oh,
I,
I
I was thinking
remember
about that.
one.
Oh, go ahead.
I was driving in. So my mom lives an hour northeast of Edmonton. Please go stalk her. She's pretty lonely.
Your
Anyways,
mom is lonely?
yeah.
Oh man.
I was driving to go visit her, and
Hot moms right here.
I was going like maybe 100. I wasn't going too fast. I was going fast enough to be like, "Wee, I'm going fast."
Speed
Like
limit
maybe,
adjacent.
yeah,
You're just
maybe
like,
130 in a 100 zone or whatever. And it's Alberta roads, so they're all straight. So you're like
yeah,
half paying attention because it's like you keep going straight and there's nothing out there. But there was like this fucking truck, and there's this like it was like I guess a tank lid or something, and it was like in the air, like I guess it had landed. A guy drove by and hit the side and
yeah, and
flipped it
flipped it
up,
up. Yeah,
and I was like, "Whoa!" So I turn, and like when you're in a car and you're gonna get an accident, you're like
yeah.
trying to
You do
duck
that little
under
hunch.
something.
I do
So
that going into parking
I
garages.
turn.
Ooh, like the fucking roof of the car is not gonna. Oh god.
Yeah. And you know how you're talking about your crash went into slow motion?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So the reason that happens is your adrenaline kicks in, so your brain works faster to help you like
yeah.
solve
Survive the.
problems and
Yeah, totally.
solutions. So that happened. So it felt like I was going in slow mo, and then I turned over and I hit the like speed ruts that tell you you're off the road. So
Yep.
it was like, do, 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 do. So it was like, do, 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 and this thing like flew just over the car in slow motion. I was like, holy fuck. Like 1 second
Oh,
later, you're just like, whatever. I'm just gonna keep going. And it's like it's weird because it's like you're like, wow, I should have stopped so nobody else would hit that big metal thing, but it's like you're half in shock. So
yeah,
you're just like you keep going and then you like collect yourself and you're like, oh, okay. And then it's like you're like,
yeah,
well, it's too late to stop now. That's like half a
yeah. You're
minute
halfway
back
there.
there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
And then I was driving and I saw like a big, like oversized load, like 5 minutes later, truck pulling this big tank that was like missing a lid. And I was like, you motherfucker.
you fucker. Yeah, you knew
Oh,
exactly which guy it
but
was.
I was
Yeah.
just so happy to be alive. I just kept
Oh,
going.
totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I was thinking of like how many times I've gone up and down the Coquihalla to like, um, God, I wasn't even thinking of that one. There was an accident in front of me. There were two really crazy things that happened to me on the Coquihalla, like traveling back and
Mhm.
forth between Vancouver and Kamloops to visit my family, right? Like
Yeah.
I used to go by myself, like before my son was born. I didn't want to like take my poor wife, girlfriend at the time to go visit my parents. So I'd just go up and visit on my own.
Yeah.
There was one time where up near Merritt, you know where it gets like the up just that big Larson Hill, that really big hill that
Oh,
goes
yeah.
up.
Before Merit.
Yeah, just before Merritt, and then like you
Yeah.
kind of come down into Merritt on that other
Yeah.
part. I was coming down the Larson Hill side on the way back to Vancouver, and I was in a little car. It was a Geo Metro. You may be familiar with those, right? Yeah, like a little three-cylinder little
Big
car.
guy in a little
Big guy in a
car.
little car. It was very fuel efficient. It didn't get the chicks, but
Nice.
it was very fuel efficient.
You already had
Uh,
a chick. You didn't
yeah,
need to.
exactly. So I'm going down and I pass a truck and it's snowy. Obviously, it's like
Yeah.
winter time, right? And the truck, I can see it starts to like it's losing control going down the hill, right? Like it's a
Mm,
semi, like a combined, not a combined one, but like a semi truck, right? Like a
yeah.
cab and a trailer.
Yeah.
And I'm passing it and I look at the cab as I'm driving by him and he looks down at me and he looks scared as fuck. And I look in my
Oh,
rear
no.
view mirror
Yeah.
and the trailer's behind my car.
Oh,
So his cab and I are parallel, but his trailer has swung in behind me. And I'm like, what the fuck? And then it's basically they call it a jackknife when the
yeah.
trailer and the semi kind of comes parallel with the cab and like into kind of a V shape. And my car is traveling and we're like sliding down the hill.
Are
He's got
you
his
sliding too, or is it just him?
no, I'm driving, but I'm in
Okay.
this little tiny car, but we're going about 110 because that's the speed limit on there. But it was icy, and I'm like, I've dropped the gear into fourth, and I have it matted, and I can see the trailer sliding, 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 like it's gonna pinch me off, right? And I'm like, I'm gonna fucking die. And I managed to like pull out in between the two of them as the trailer sort
Nice.
of connects with the cab and it spins out and goes off into the thing, and I pull over and I phone the tow truck, and there's a tow truck up just up the way. So, or I phoned the cops and they sent a tow truck, and the guy was fine in the truck. He
Yeah.
was okay. But like it scissored and then went off into the ditch. And I was like,
Wow.
oh, and I just remember like by the time I got to Chilliwack, I stopped in Chilliwack and I just like, I got out of the car and I was like, literally shaking, like my body was shaking.
Oh
But it took
wow.
almost a full like 45 minutes to an hour to get there.
Yeah.
And I was driving like fucking 60 the whole way in the right
Yeah.
lane, just like, oh God. Yeah. But like, I didn't, so that would have been one of those instances where I didn't come close to dying, but it was like
Yeah.
that could have gone horribly sideways.
Well, yeah, it could have been because it could have been like you didn't downshift and floor it and you
Yeah.
just tried and then it just crunched you. So that
Yeah.
could be one.
It was at that moment that I wished I was in the rally car. It's like, just get the fuck out of there.
Not in a Geo
Not in a
Metro.
Geo Metro. God damn it.
I
That's
do
my
have to
commuter
say,
car.
one good thing about fucking global warming is we don't have to deal with this ice bullshit as much anymore. Like you were saying how like Paul Lake used to freeze
Used to
over and
freeze
how
over, doesn't freeze over
the
anymore. So
Coca-Cola used to be so fucking scary. Like it's kind of
terrible.
scary now. And you're
Yeah,
like, because I
but it's
remember,
groomed now.
yeah, and it's like there's
Did
no
you remember like
reason it would be so much better now, but I think it's just warmer and doesn't ice up as much.
yeah, I mean, there's two things working to that too, right? Like I'm not
Mm-hmm.
being a non-global warming person, but also
Mm-hmm.
the technology has gotten a lot better in like how to maintain roads too
Well,
since
that's
then,
true.
right?
Yeah.
So you got to give it up to the contractors who take care of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember when we were younger going up and down that Coquihalla, and there's like 12 to 20 foot ice walls on either
Yeah.
side of the Coquihalla, right? Like you're
Mm-hmm.
socked in through that area, right?
Yeah.
And now you like it's just little piles of snow on the side,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
there might be like piles up where the toll booth used to
Yes, yeah,
be,
where the toll booth used to be. Yeah,
but
totally.
it's
But
it's
you
not
don't
like when we
see,
were kids.
yeah, it used to be like you were driving and you were like, I'm in a weird cavern,
Yeah.
right? And it was one lane and just fucking 10-foot ice walls on either side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've
I don't like
actually
things now compared to the way they used to be. When I was your age, we had ice walls 10 feet
yeah.
tall.
It was scary, but we felt something.
Yeah. We didn't have the internet. We couldn't figure out what the temperature was going to be.
We
We just
couldn't
drove
Google.
our cars
Yeah, we
right
didn't
into
have
the ice.
we didn't have cameras
Yeah.
on the road
On the
conditions.
road. Yeah. Hey, just hop on Drive BC real quick and have a look and see if the roads are okay.
Hey, you want to go to Kamloops? Think we'll die?
Meh, could do.
You could listen to the radio and see
Yeah.
how the roads are, or I'll just drive there and take test my luck.
Yeah.
Plus, it could be that we were like in our mid to early 20s and just being like, I
Just
don't give
fucking
a
doing
fuck.
it. I'm going. I'm
I'll
going.
fucking do it. I don't
Yeah.
care. I
Yeah.
drove to fucking in 2007. I moved from Vancouver to Calgary in January, and I drove a fucking what was it? A Chevy Cavalier,
Yeah.
and the fucking something happened with the headlights where the glass shattered.
Yeah.
So in like Kamloops, I had to stop at my buddy's house and get like packing tape and plastic and put
Just
it
to
over the
fix it. Yeah.
lights
Over the light. Yeah.
just to get to fucking to Calgary.
I ran out of washer fluid on the Coquihalla one time, and it was like, you know, that the trucks spray up that dirty, muddy
Yeah.
water and
Mhm.
just coats your windshield. And I'm just like, I drove from like the toll booth to Vancouver with my window down in fucking December, and it's like minus 30 outside. And I have one hand with my t-shirt that I pulled off, wiping off the window on the front while I'm fucking driving the car. Right on
Yeah.
one side of the car, I can only see out. Again, you're never so happy to get to Chilliwack in your entire life
Yeah,
until you get down here. I can
exactly.
finally put fluid in the fucking car. There's
Yeah.
nothing between those sections, right? So it's just me fucking gonna
Mhm.
die. Just no seatbelt, just hanging out the front, wiping it off.
Yeah.
Truckers like, wah, wah. I'm like, I fucking know. I fucking know. This is stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am stupid. I
Yeah.
shouldn't be
So-
doing this, but
so yeah,
I
so-
am.
So back to your original and earlier point, there's many situations where I probably shouldn't have
Yeah.
lived.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do I deserve to live? Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of fucked because it's like My dad was like that too. Like he was telling me like how he fell out of the hayloft. He got in like 6 car accidents. And it's funny because all of his like sisters and brothers would say he had 9 lives. And then
Right.
he just like it's like we were talking about before, it's like quantum immortality. You could just live forever until you die slowly,
Yeah. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is almost a bummer because
But that's the way
like
most people die. Like this is the thing.
yeah,
Like we see a lot of television movies and stuff where people die instantly or horrible graphic deaths where they die quickly. The vast majority of us die long, prolonged, protracted. This I don't mean to make it sad near the end of the podcast, but like you do,
yeah,
people die of cancer or like long-term diseases where they slowly die.
yeah, like
Right.
my dad
That's most people. That's most
yeah,
people's
my
end.
dad got cancer and it took him like 6 months and then he died. And it's
Yeah.
like
Right.
it was like fine, but it's like I mean, as far as ways to go, like it kind of sucked, but it
But
wasn't
that's
like
that's the reality for most people is it's a long protracted
mhm,
death, right? You're
yeah.
very lucky if you get to die instantly
So
because you
you
go
could
to the
like
next plane.
because what I was thinking about this earlier, and it's like with this whole quantum immortality thing, I was thinking, what if it's kind of like a gift that some
Yeah, yeah,
people
yeah.
have, like because people die tragically all the time. Like you'll see someone just get like someone will fall off the back of a car, like in a parking lot, or they'll trip and bang their head and they're done.
Yeah.
And it's like, did they was it just their time or did they not have this like passive superhero ability where they're
Yeah.
not Bruce Willis from Unbreakable and they just can't jump out of the way into a different timeline?
That's only you, Dale. That's only you that would survive that
Uh,
shit. Dude,
and the other yeah,
I
the
ride
other thing too
motorcycles
is
with
like,
people, right? I've
yeah,
seen it
they could
happen.
have
It's just
yeah,
sometimes it's your time. Sometimes it's not.
yeah.
Sometimes you lose a foot. Sometimes you just gone,
Yeah, and
right?
sometimes I guess they could have just jumped into a different
Yeah,
timeline.
exactly.
So I guess that next the next question is this happening to all of us or is there like do I maybe one time just die in all the timelines? Or is it we die of old age in one of the timelines no matter what?
Oh shit! Here you go, blowing our brains up
Right?
again at an hour and a half in. Yeah,
Because, like,
so I can see that, right? Like, are the old age, long, prolonged deaths that common because this is the timeline people ended up in?
yeah, I wasn't even thinking about that. Like, I was thinking people jump out of that time. What if
No,
we're all
man,
ending up in the same
in the
timeline
same timeline,
for the apocalypse?
right? The people that die
Yeah.
instantly have moved on to a different timeline, but everyone
Yeah,
else who lives in this timeline dies a long, protracted death.
that's true. Hmm.
Just-
Yeah,
yeah,
because if you don't have any trauma, it's like the longest you can live as a human is like I think some people say like 150 years if you had like
yeah, the
all the
ultimate
science
optimal the
available.
optimal
Yeah,
conditions. Yeah,
like you lived in a blue zone or whatever those are
yeah,
called, where people live a
totally.
long time.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Yeah.
would
You
you
know,
want to go to 150?
every dude, I'm not gonna make it to 70, I don't think at this rate. I'm gonna have a jammer in the next few years, probably.
Yeah.
I hope it's quick. I hope it's quick. I hope it's very quick. So yeah, I mean, I make a lot of jokes about mortality just based on my history, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm if I live a long time, it's not going to be a high quality life based on the end
Ooh,
of it. No,
yeah.
it's that's a TBI, right? Like I've had
Yeah,
so many brain injuries that like
that's
it.
true.
If I live for a long time, those last years are gonna suck for anyone who's around me, right? So
Yeah.
I've made it very clear to my
Mhm.
wife and to my family that like it's not to be drawn out and long
Yeah.
because you're
Like
not gonna want to be around me,
my
right?
brother, I'm his emerge whatever the person they call to make the decision
Yeah,
if you live or die.
yeah,
He put
yeah.
me down.
Your ice. You're in case of emergency contact.
Yeah. But it's like if he asked me, he's like, if I'm put on life support or if I'm like in a tragic accident and I'm a vegetable, will you tell him not to put me on life support? And I was like, dude, if you break your arm, I'm not putting you
Yeah,
on life
totally.
support.
And that right there is brotherly love. Oh, you're gonna have to put him down. I can hear you. Yeah, I have to.
Yeah,
He needs a tetanus shot. You better just pull the plug.
be in the hospital. I'm like, yeah, I think we should just terminate. And then you hear him in the
Yeah,
room. I could just use a cast.
yeah.
You don't have to.
I'm still alive, only I'm very badly burned. If you could maybe send someone down and, oh, hello. You shot me. You shot me right in the arm. Why would you do that? Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's wrap this up. I got to get going. I promised my
Okay.
son I would hang out and play video games with him a little bit before we go to
Ooh,
bed.
I'm gonna play video games. Can we
Yeah.
make a pact
You and
that
I?
yes, when one of us dies, the other one has to show up to their funeral super disheveled and crazy and just be like, he's not dead.
Yeah,
He's just
I
jumped into a
promise you I'll
different
do that.
timeline. He's
I
just in a different
I
timeline.
promise you
We
I
could
will
get
do
there if
that.
we all commit suicide.
I promise you I will do that. I promise you I will do that. I will be there for you no matter what. The thing is, I'm going first. So you're gonna have to come to my funeral.
Yeah.
And the problem is, if you come to my funeral and do that, Allie be like, oh, Dale's here. It won't even be like a shock. She'll just be like, oh, great, Dale's here.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Yeah. That'll just be the same. Like Andrew will see you, be like, "Oh, hey, Jeff," and
Oh, hey,
then you'll
Jeff.
be
Yeah.
like yelling. You should be like,
He's not dead. He's not dead. He's
Yeah.
like, yeah, all untucked and all fucked. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's in a different timeline.
Yeah,
This
just
isn't even
molesting my corpse.
You gotta have an open casket so I can pull you up and be like, hey, I'm totally okay. Holy shit.
Like Jim Carrey when he has the guy over his shoulder.
Yeah.
He's just like, I'm alive.
Totally. Weekend at Dale's. Let's go.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Oh man. Right on.
All right.
Okay. Thank you for joining us on the Dale Show, where we've talked about quantum immortality and near-death experiences. I hope you had as much fun as we did talking about it.
Yeah. I hope we educated you a lot.
Yeah. If nothing else, we got you to think about like the various planes of existence, which is like you could go crazy doing that. So try not to. Just enjoy your day. And if you're ever in an accident situation, just fucking accept it.
Yeah.
Just accept it. You'll live long.
And if you're high and we gave you an existential crisis, I'm sorry.
Terribly sorry. Yeah.